Oh yes. Oh yes. Voltron, Form, the the four heads of Netrunner coming together once again. Wednesday, bad publicity. We are here, rotating the order just to keep people on their toes, moving people like Hollywood squares. So Hollis can't always be that center square.
Yeah, gotta mix it up.
Circle takes square, man.
Okay, I'm with it.
Yeah. So, guys, we know why you're here, and it's because you're either here to hear us talk about Shaper, Rain, and Reverie, or you're just going to give the thumbs down and close the window quickly. So, let us fulfill the duties and get right into this. Shall we, boys? Here we go.
Let's hit it up. Let's start with our first Shaper card. This one is pretty exciting. It is a new identity for Shaper. This is Akiko Nisei.
This is a weird one.
It is pretty interesting, yeah. So clone, one link, 4512, and it says, it says whenever you access cards from R&D, you and the corpse secretly spend 0, 1, or 2 credits. Reveal spent credits. If you spent the same number of credits, you get to access an additional card. How about that?
Yeah, exciting stuff. The 12 influence is interesting.
Oh man, you want to start right there? We can go right there because it baffles my mind where they come up with these influence numbers. It is, and I feel like that's what's probably going to hurt this ID. To me, I've never seen. Usually, if they historically in the past, they've had a hard time balancing some of these IDs that they feel that are overpowered by shorting them influence. And it has really handicapped them heavily in the past. Heavily, they've never been able to get it right on the money, or a cool ID is just kind of shelved because it can't flush out anymore. So take it as you will. Do you think the ID is ability is very powerful and they've shorted it? Do you think they balance it up again by putting some link here? But
I think the link is the key, because this is a high power level card. It allows R&D lock naturally without anything. It does include a side game, but it also gets the corp to spend money, which they might not want to. I think it's mainly due to the one link, which I find really, really cool for this ID. So I've played this ID a couple times. I think I played it 3 times. And 3 cards came to mind when I was playing it. Number 1, government investigations.
Whoa.
Government investigations is a 0 cost current that says neither player can spend 2 when they're making when you're secretly bidding. So a problem that Nisei will have is corps that have a buttload of money will just spend 2 to tax and have taxing ice on R&D just to make her ability not worth it. So government investigations clears bad corp currents. It costs 0, so it's like nothing to put down. And you got a 50-50 shot at getting an extra card access, which is really cool. Second card, super interesting, Lamprey.
Heyo.
So
I like it.
Lamprey,
You're going
says
heavy
when you run
now.
HQ, if it's successful, the corp loses a credit. Nisei's ability, the corp doesn't want you to access multiple cards. When you run R&D, you're going to cost them a credit. So it's a way to hit 2 servers and do a steady decline of credits over and over again. And with like a clone chip, you can just keep the Lamprey pressure going, keep going on HQ, getting a whole bunch of accesses. And when you swing over to R&D, same thing. Even if you just bid 0 and access 1, still good. You get in the corp to spend money, and you're doing a constant drain, which is really cool. And the third, Nexus. So Security Nexus really, really wants one big, powerful run a turn, and Nisei's ability on top of the one really powerful run a turn will get you extra cards as you go. So maybe you do a Maker's Eye, which combos with her ability to allow you to access additional cards. You do a Maker's Eye, and you can see potentially 4 cards. Or you do a what's the one call where you can access for memory? What is that one?
Deep data mining.
Deep data mining. You could look at 6 cards.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's really, I think her ability is really cool. The 12 influence, I don't think will hurt as bad. It's not great because you don't get the because that last 3 influence is the 3 okay, well, here's all the stuff I really, really need. Here's some cool stuff that I want, and I want to spend the last 3 influence on it. She doesn't get the cool stuff that she would like. She doesn't get any nice to have. She gets just what she needs with the influence, which will probably knock her down a tier from maybe A tier to B tier. But I think she'll be okay. She's gonna have some fans. They'll be really happy to have her, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm a thumbs up for her.
Mm-hmm.
What about you other guys?
Garbage. I'm kidding.
Mm.
No, I don't think it's garbage. I don't think it's garbage at all. I don't think it's
The
garbage.
hottest of takes.
Yeah, no. I don't think this is garbage. I do think that, man, I feel like government investigations, while useful here, might still be a weird... That specific interaction, right? Like that, or I guess really combo, right? It still seems a bit of a stretch. It is better to make it a 50-50, but I really just kind of like... Because you can just bet 0 all the time. Like you have to consider technically also what this does is it gives you the access if you spend the same number of credits. So the great thing about this is that you also get the leverage as that runner to say, well, I spend 0. Are you gonna lose 1 right now? Because that's pretty much what you're asking. It's like every time. I mean, well, not every time, but that whenever you access cards from R&D, it's like, all right, well. Are you gonna bet? Are you gonna just straight up lose money, or are you just gonna be content with me always getting a free additional? I don't know. I just think that's very cool. Like economically, it also challenges the corp a little bit, and I think that's the other side of it. It gives you that access, and it hurts their economy, and I think because of that, like you said, it's such a powerful ability like that it's definitely worth knocking off a couple influence for it. I don't think the 12 influence makes her unplayable, right? And she gets a link, so she seems like a pretty good value as an ID. And I know that Alec is all about value. So
well, there you go, and that's just it, right? The question you have to ask is, does the built-in credit denial, which is typically something that folks are a little wary of being in the game, right? Namely, Account Siphon and Vamp, those cards are gone for a reason. Is this incremental credit denial worth the bump in influence, and would it be dangerous to have it at 15 influence and give her the ability to put in, X number of more credit denial pieces, maybe Hernando Cortez or diversion of funds, right? To have a critical mass of those effects. So yeah, I think the influence probably warranted, because like you're saying, Hollis, the game that you can play there is really interesting, where you just condition the corp to have that 0 credit bid, and then all of a sudden you just no, I'll go 1, or I'll keep going 0, I'll go 1, maybe I'll go 2. You can mess with the corp a little, and I think there's some cool tricks to be had there. Another thing I want to point out as far as value goes is if you're looking for a single solid run per turn, you could actually also consider doing a stealth package, right? Stealth could be really interesting. Maybe even rebirthing into this ID from Smoke. So Smoke gets you up and going, and then you can be, or any other Shaper ID, but it might be nicer to start somewhere else and then come into this ID rather than starting from turn 1.
This is so
that's where I'm at.
I think that's a great point, because this is a very valid rebirth mid to late game once you get set up. If you're really, unlucky or you're getting drained from too many side games early on because of accesses and things like that, you could really hinder your setup. A couple things that I just want to touch on here do relate around that. I think that hats off to Boggs and the design team and the people behind this, because it's really, really interesting to shake things up enough to bring this mechanic into the runner side. I think that's really cool. I think if I was to start heavily playing this card, I think you'd have to do it more as a denial kind of build, because I don't feel that you could realistically rely on this as good multi-access, because it's not going to hit you every turn. And even if you are, the price that you're paying for that extra card over time could be steep, it could be not. If you're kind of going in there bidding zeros and you're getting free cards for that, then awesome. But I think the law of averages is you're probably paying a little too much to see or gain that extra access than you would through the other equivalent multi-access cards and ways. I am a little worried that maybe there will not be enough support. I mean, this card can stand on its own, but with the introduction of this mechanic on the runner side, I think that I would have really loved to see a lot more runner cards than play with the if you and your opponent secretly spend, kind of triggers. So just a lot more of those kind of actions brought into the runner, I think, and that side game mechanic, so that you could almost build out a better side build and a very interesting mechanic on this side. But maybe that would have never happened, because it was like it's thematically, was the Jinteki clone that came over, and we're not stealing all the rest of Jinteki's style of side games and tricks and traps and things like that. But me personally, this is I don't have anything wrong with the side game. I think that's cool. I think it adds, when I'm watching games where things come down to size, I know it's frustrating sometimes for the players, but I think from a spectator perspective and from a casual and fun perspective, that's what that bit of randomness keeps games fun and keeps things interesting. This is not the ID for me, though, not because it's Psy, but because, like I said, that the way that it's building, I don't really usually like the denial style decks, and I don't like the hit of influence that this took. I think that there's, if you're looking at the smorgasbord of choices in Shaper, I don't think this is the strongest one at the moment. But I do like the fact that Alec brought up talking about looking and experimenting with your stealth suite with this, because that way at least you're able to manage your money a little differently, and your credits can actually be used to pump out those side games, and you're not so actively working on being drained going through. When you get to the end, it's not like you have only 0 or 1 left, and the corp kind of knows what you're probably going to spend. So that's my take on it. Very, very interesting design space. Oh,
sorry, I was just gonna say, also worth noting, I just realized this. It's every time. It's not once per turn. So you could do almost
every access.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or successful on RD. Sorry.
Right, and as we'll see later, it might not even need to be during a run.
Ooh.
Uh-oh. Get hype.
Yeah.
I also want to point out, we're not necessarily going to delve into the most wanted list today, but I do think it is worth pointing out, related to David's point earlier, that clone ship being off the restricted list is a huge deal for this ID if you want to go with the Lamprey plan, which I actually think is a good plan, because not only does it give you access to that credit denial, it gives you access to Clot Lock, which continues to be very relevant. You can bring in stuff like Corporate Grant, which is also a really sweet credit denial tool. And this suite of options, I think, can give you enough of an edge on corps economically to get them in a position where either they have to keep up their econ to do their normal state of affairs, or deny you your multi-accesses, but they can't do both. I think that's pretty reasonable game state to get to with the right tools. So I think Nisei can definitely get there.
It's a cool ID.
Uh-huh. It's one of the most flavorful IDs I've ever seen. Like, just the lore of an escaped Nisei clone, right? Like, so cool.
Yeah.
What an awesome idea.
Thematically super awesome.
Yeah.
And fabulous hair.
Pack art card.
10 out of 10.
Up next is the pack art. So automatically good.
There you go. All right, let's head over to Insight. It's a pretty sweet little double event for Shapers there. 2 influence, 0 cost. Additional cost, spend a click. And it says the Corp may look at the top 4 cards of R&D and arrange them in any order, and then reveal the top 4 cards of R&D. What a weird card. What do you guys think about this one? Is this a useful effect that you'd want to put in your deck?
Oh yeah.
Oh
Absolutely.
my god. If David says it is, then that means it's so far left wing that
So I've played a Chaos Theory deck with this card, and it's really, really, really fun. So the combo is not terrible. It's not like setting up like combo. It's just like 2 C's and then ombo. So you click 1 and 2, you Insight. Okay. Click 3, you Mad Dash. Now, why would you Mad Dash? Because they're obviously not going to put the agenda on top. Well, because you already played our good friend Top Hat.
Top Hat.
The Top Hat says, after you make a successful run on R&D, pick any of the top 5 cards and you access that one. You don't get to look at it, you don't know what it is. But if you just Insighted, you know where they put the agenda. So if there's an agenda in the top 4 cards, you just say, "Oh, where's it at? Card 3? I'll access the 3rd card, please." And I'll take that. And I'll put this in mine. Goes in my score area over here on my side, and I get this many points. So both Top Hat and Insight are 0 credit investments.
Yep.
And if you're even cooler and you're playing Comet, you get to trigger you can immediately trigger a run event to go on to R&D. You can do it in 2 clicks. I think this card's fantastic. It takes a dedicated build, not like in its main competitor is going to be indexing. Indexing can just automatically works no matter what. It works in whatever deck. But an Insight deck can actually afford to sit back and make 1 run to do a score, whereas an indexing deck needs to be a little more aggressive to get the corp to spend money and has to make 2 runs in order to get a score. So yeah, I really dig this card. Super fun. That's the main combo I've seen with it, because otherwise, if you play Insight, you're giving them their combo pieces when they want them, which is bad. But if you can guarantee when you're going to get the steal, it works out way better. So
yeah, that's a cool synergy there. I really like finding cool uses for Top Hat because I think it's a cool card. Yeah, that's just really nice. The other potential include in a deck like that, which is hefty influence-wise, but I really like, is Find the Truth, right? So Find the Truth synergizes with seeing the top card. And so if you, on other non-Insight runs, know that the top card of R&D is not something interesting, and you already have Top Hat installed, you can make, meaningful runs on R&D past the first card, and then you can put an RNG key. Yeah, right. Like, it's a whole package, right? RNG key, Top Hat, Find the Truth, Insight. Yep. It all is this really unusual new way of interacting with the top of R&D, and I really like those synergies. I think they're really nice.
You know what's cool about every one of those cards? Insight, Top Hat, Find the Truth, RNG key. They all cost
0. Yeah.
They are free.
So is that why you're not building your combo around this in CBI raid?
Oh, you could do CBI raid.
I was honestly expecting something weird and janky like that from you, man.
I've not even considered that. That's actually way better.
No.
Is it? No, wait. Is it way better? No, it's not way better.
No.
I guess you could CBI raid and then Insight.
Hollis,
right, that's what he's saying.
Hollis, what do you got here?
Well, David.
Uh-oh.
David, my boy.
Unpolice.
You're right.
David. Jameson says this thing, and Jameson has this philosophy, and I would agree. So most of the time, a lot of times when you look at cards and you see a lot of text, that should be a warning sign. When you see a lot of separate things on a card, and they're not like modal, they're like just straight up like here's this card does a lot of things or like multiple things like that. You should probably ask some questions. And I feel like this might be one of those cards, because basically in order for this to work, well, I think the best case use for this is exactly what you described. You're building around it, and so you're gonna have all of these cards that utilize this ability, so you make a very specific run, like one quality good run. But I don't. Indexing is. I mean, I just hear what I'm saying, right? You ready, David? I'm about to tell you. Here it comes. Indexing is really good.
I wasn't arguing that.
It's really good though.
Yeah.
It's like think about how good you think it is. It's gooder. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean,
here's the thing. With indexing, right? You can make your big run, see all the cards, totally whiff, right? You're down economically, the corp hits you with a hard-hitting news, you're very sad. This card, you spend an extra click, you see the cards, and if there's no agenda there, you're like, cool, I didn't spend any money. I didn't make a run on R&D that was potentially very dangerous. I'm not going to get hard-hitting news this turn. Perfect. And if you do see an agenda, you're like, great, I will just go get that agenda. Plus, you know information about what the corp's about to draw. If you see them put a hard-hitting news on top of their deck, you're like, oh, well, even if there's an agenda there, maybe I shouldn't run, because if I do, then, yeah, it's a different play style. Like, I get that indexing is good, but
yeah,
if you're running a deck that's a little more sit back and a little more like find your opportunities, then this card presents you the ability to not engage in a run sensibility, and that's pretty appealing.
From my take on it, I'm not a fan of this card right now. There's a couple reasons for that, and I feel that number one, it gives too much choice to your opponent, and I feel like they're basically like draw is very powerful in a card game, and this is basically giving them a little bit of power to control their draw order, so they don't have to, start wasting ones on knowing what's coming to if they're digging for pieces. You might be giving them their pieces a little too quickly. Number two is that it's very niche. I really find it very niche. It works with the combo style that you guys are talking about. If you're playing those combo pieces, then all the power to you. Go have some fun with it. Number 3 is you're talking about tempo, and it's, part A is, yes, you guys have said that this is a little bit sit back and wait for the card, and it's a little bit of sit back play style. And I don't know if you can afford to do that in this day and age in the competitive scene. And then tempo part 2 is that this costing or being a double, I think really hurts it and really kind of slows your kind of pace down. I like the fact when you're really doing good SHAPER R&D lock that you're just kind of like boom, 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 boom. Like you're just applying that pressure once you're set up. I really like the back to basics kind of SHAPER. Set up, take a couple pokes to keep people honest, work on your setup. But once you're set up, you're hammering your turns with access, with the power of indexing. You're controlling it, and you're keeping pressure up. And I feel like this gives up a little too much for my liking on the competitive play side.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I agree, it is a pretty niche card, and I agree the combo is, while it's fun, it's not gonna revolutionize SHAPERs or be the go-to thing. But I think it's neat, and there are people who are gonna want to try that combination.
Neat,
and that's about it.
Neat equals cute, right? This is a cute card.
Sure, yeah, it's like Surfer or Panchatantra. Right? Those are cute cards. They're not like meta breakers.
No, yeah.
So, let me say this: does anyone think the order is interesting? Sort of, kind of.
Why?
Like,
if that order was flipped, it would be ridiculous.
Never mind. I have apparently dyslexia, and I was in my head. These work in the opposite order. Like when I reread the card, and I was like, wait, what? Wait, reveal them, and then they get to rearrange. I was like, no, I'm dumb. Never mind.
Yeah, because then it'd be that old school Jinteki, man.
Worse. Yeah. I was about to say, like, if that was the case, it's even worse than I thought. And I'm like, oh wait, no, what I thought is correct. It's okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, let that one be.
There you go.
We got anything else?
I want to come back to the card later. Sorry.
Do we have anything else, or was that it?
I think we got it. I'm right. You're wrong.
Yeah.
No, like I said, if you're like, well, which one do I want in my deck, indexing or insight? You obviously want indexing. The thing I'm talking about is a totally different style of play than than that. You're playing a completely different deck that's doing its own thing. And if you're into trying out some new stuff and doing something new and kind of funky, that's what you want to play. If you're just like, I got the standard deck, I know my game plan, don't look elsewhere.
No.
But if you build to it, it's not one of those bad cards where if I build to it, I'm not going to get a benefit. If you build to this, you will actually get some benefit from it.
Yep.
That's all.
And I like knowing what's coming. Like, that's true. I do like the aspect of knowing not just that there's an agenda on top of the deck, but I see. Look at how they're prioritizing the cards they're about to draw. They rather have, like Alex said, and you mentioned, right, that they'd rather have hard-hitting news right next. Then look right after that. There's another card that does net damage or meat damage or any number of things. Look, they prioritize an ice first. So maybe they don't have ice in hand, and this lets me make a little bit of information might help me make inferences about what they have in their hand remaining, and help determine a better vector of attack. I'm stretching and reaching a little bit, but I think like little bits of that information like that are important when you are making a decision for your next run or just the next number of runs. Seeing how they're prioritizing their upcoming draws may tell you a lot about their current state of their hand. So there is that unique benefit there that, indexing as an example doesn't give you, because, the corp isn't rearranging it. you are in that instance. But in this case, this is okay. What does the corp identify as the most valuable cards for them to draw at this moment, or a more immediate moment? Sorry.
No, you're good. All right. Well, shall we move on?
Yeah, man. Was
So
there?
maybe another piece in this top of R&D puzzle. This is very interesting, right? It's Mind's Eye, which is a new console for Shapers. Every time we get a new Shaper console, we're like, oh, is this going to be the new go-to, the new standard? Well, let's see. This is a 3 install, 3 influence, 1 MU. Okay, currently not great rate, but all right. It says whenever you make a successful run on R&D, you may place 1 power counter on Mind's Eye, and you could spend 1 click and 3 hosted power counters to access the top card of R&D. So there you go, just a free extra access there.
Man, if you play in whatever format they call it, where you're gonna use the entire card pool, this with old school R&D interface would have been bonkers. Huh? Time and place, kids. Time and place for cards that are released.
Well, it's important to clarify, like you're suggesting, that, and it has been confirmed that yes, when you access that card through this ability, you get additional accesses through cards like Nai, Shia, and Exer, but not Turning Wheel, because Turning Wheel says it's during a run.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, also with Akiko Nisei, right? So this is theoretically her console. In fact, I think she's holding it in her art. And so, yeah, it synergizes with that, right? Providing extra incentive to get these successful runs on R&D. Plus, it plays around with the same kind of looking at the top of R&D cards that we were just discussing. Because even if you insight and they put Agenda the 4th card down, you've got 3 counters on this thing. You're like, all right, well, I'll wait around until it's your top card. Or you have to draw past it, and then you're spending clicks to get it into HQ, and I'll just go get it there, right? So you could present, I think, a pretty viable threat with this card. I just don't know if you want to commit your console to that effect.
Yeah. I'd like to really understand the value that you on return that you get out of this. You know, like I really, I know that they debate online, and I saw some kind of chat somewhere where, and that's why I keep bringing it up when we talk about this stuff. I don't think 3 this day and age is expensive for a console. I don't, because I think consoles are supposed to be weighted properly because they are those key pieces that synergize with the runner, that synergize with the rest of the deck. Like sometimes that's the cornerstone that you're using. And I think that paying 3 for even the extra MU bonus is really cool, but I'm really wondering how many times you're actually going to be able to use this ability. Right? Like what are you thinking? Like how many, unless, like, because you're really gonna, would you build around this? Like, is this a standard 3 copies because you have to see it early enough to start getting return on investment for the entire game?
You could. I played this card once, and I got it to fire 1 time with a Nayashi, and I got an agenda steal.
So wait,
the way I did it.
So then fire, you mean you did have the 3 counters and you used
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you got it to fire. You got it to fire once, as you meant you placed a 1 power counter on it. You're like, yes.
Yeah. Well, I've only ever played 1 game with it, and I got it to work, and I'm like, done. I'm good. Whenever we talk about this. So I was playing out of Chaos Theory because I already got the extra MU, so the 1 MU didn't really hurt me that bad. Played it down, and I was using RNG key and Find the Truth, and I just did that so I could get some. And I always just pick credits so I could get the money built up, and got 3 counters on it, and I Fisk investment seminars to get on the draw, installed in the Yashi, and then fired it, and was able to. I think like the top card was an agenda, and I stole it without having to run, which is pretty cool.
Very powerful effect if you can.
Yeah.
If you can.
I mean,
if you can
it gives
get
you
the
a
fire.
free run. It lets you be a little more aggressive. It lets you do the. You could like have two. You could theoretically have 2 counters on this. Do the indexing run, and get in, and put it as the top card, and then for your like after the indexing run, you hit Mind's Eye and go ahead and pick it up without having to run back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool for stuff like that. Just manipulating the top of R&D. If you can run HQ, find the truth R&D, see it's an agenda. If you have 3 counters on it, you can go ahead and pick it up with a click. I mean, there's some cool interactions to it. I do think you need 3 to answer your question. Yes, you need 3 because you got to get it going early. Once they get 2 or 3 ice on R&D, it's going to be hard to get the 3rd counter. But
exactly right.
Yeah. I think building 2 it's not that bad. I don't really think it's competing that hard with other Shaper consoles out of Chaos Theory especially. Most other Shapers are going to want to play Astrolab or go into maybe bringing in Security Nexus or something like that. So it's not a terrible console. I mean, you could play it as a 1 or 2 up just to get the extra MU, and if you get the ability, cool. And if not, you got the extra MU for not that expensive. You know, I think it's neat.
Yeah, neat equals cute, man.
Yeah, it's not as good as Inside, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, I just don't feel like you're gonna get the value here. I mean, they're already gonna ice up R&D against you quickly because you're Shaper.
Yeah, the biggest thing will be if you can use the other Shaper tools to manipulate the top of R&D and have the 3rd and get the 3rd power counter on it, then it's great.
Yeah, like if you can get this out early and just build the 3 power counters, and obviously, you know, if there's a way for you to use some of Shaper's tricks, and then that's the game ending one. Like you just camp with 1 power counter there until you actually need it. And you know,
or maybe maybe like first turn they're flooded and they go ahead and ice HQ. Your first turn, you know, I'm gonna mod down a Mind's Eye and run 3 times. Now I'm set for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
you could get that, and then you're just like, yeah, cool. I have this trump card that I can use whenever I want.
Yeah.
So, allow me to take us on a very brief tangent. We're going through Value Town, and we're taking a left-hand turn onto Jank Alley.
Oh, jeez.
All right.
Some shady people in
Jank
that alley. Shady.
Yeah, in Jank Alley, there's a guy. He opens up his coat, and he offers you his card.
Whoa, I thought that was going to go a whole different direction.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you're not going to like what you see, because, in fact, what I am wondering with this is whether you could make an Eater deck that synergizes with Mind's Eye. So load up your Eater, make it as efficient as possible, make those runs on R&D like code siphon runs or patron runs or security testing or whatever, to make them actually useful runs. And then you load up your Mind's Eye, and if you're really committing to 1 breaker, you could net ready eyes or whatever to make it super cheap. And then you use Mind's Eye to actually make your accesses. I think it's a crazy idea. I think it's hella janky. I just want to point out that I think it might be able to work. So any brewers out there who want to make an Eater deck with this card, let me know.
You'd catch some people off guard. Eater's one of those things that pops up at weird times.
Right? And it could theoretically work with this, right? It'll get you in there most of the time. Yeah. I just think there's some interesting brewing possibilities with this console, but I do not think it's going to see wide play in the Shaper faction.
Hollis, closing thoughts on this one?
Meh.
Oh, well said.
Moving on. All right.
Shouldn't it be like that? That's the man. 1 up, 1 down.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So Hollis, let me see if I can get you out of Maysville on this one.
Okay. Okay.
So we had an Anarch card that had to do with trashing or with remote servers, right? We had a criminal card that had to do with trashing installed cards, right? Now we got a SHAPER card that has to do with trashing access cards. And I'm curious which you think of the three of these is the best one. Let me tell you about Mache. Mache is a 1-cost unique hardware for SHAPER, free influence. And it says the first time you trash an accessed card each turn, doesn't have to be installed, you may place power counters on Mache equal to that card's trash cost. So pad campaign, pay 4, get 4 counters, easy peasy. And then you could spend 3 hosted power counters as a paid ability to draw 1 card.
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
This is the first question I have.
Yeah.
Would you pay 3 credits to draw 1 card?
Let's see, what's the going rate?
What's it going?
No, 3 credits. No.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So-
if you're playing against CTM and you have to trash a whole bunch of stuff, but you also need to draw and establish your board, would you pay 4 credits to draw cards
Save your
at
life.
that point?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I would do that. So it's oh,
Also, if you access whatever card and you have an imp installed and you imp it and pay 0 credits, you still get those power counters, right? Because it says place power counters equal to the trash cost.
that's true.
If you've got a Prisha, if you've got a Scrubber, right? Like,
Right.
there are ways of cheating out value with this card.
And I feel like that's basically what you have to do.
Mm.
Like I think that like so my initial answer is like compared to all 3, which one do I like the most? And that's really hard because I honestly don't think any of them are really great. Let me know. That's the wrong word. I don't think any
Option
of them.
D.
Yeah, I don't even think any of them are good.
The
But
old-
but I'm with David 100 on that on like the point he just made is that if you're concerned, right? If you're playing against a deck that you know has been known on occasion to murder you
Mhm.
by reducing the amount of credits you have because you are trashing things, then it behooves you to allow this, allow yourself to get a bigger hand size and prevent that secondary win condition, which is what this does in a great, like, as a byproduct of that. I love that. That. If I have to choose the options though, like between all 3, I am maybe slightly. I can't believe I'm gonna say this. I think I like Miss Bones.
Oh, Miss Bones.
Why are
Yeah.
you begrudgingly picking Miss Bones?
David, you were not here last week. You might not
I
have
take 1
experienced
week off.
the
and
angst.
talking crap about
We
Miss Bones.
we were having existential crisis over the fact that Miss Bones was maybe not as good as Scrubber.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think Miss Bones might be the
Still
best out
money.
of those options, and
Yeah.
I think that this really only is useful if you are, if it's useful maybe in a pinch if you are forced to trash a lot of hefty things because it stops that extra win condition, or I think it's fine if you have the available credits to generate for this purpose. Like actually, what's funny about this to me is that, for example, Miss Bones, not Miss Bones, sorry, my brain just died.
Hijacked router.
Yeah, like Hijacked Router doesn't really do what I'd want to. I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're all doing such different things as far as like how it's trying to help you versus asset spam. Like SHAPER wants to give you additional cards, Hijacked Router wants to help reduce like corp economy, and then Miss Bones wants to bump your economy to help you get rid of installed cards. So I don't know. I'm just gonna throw it to you guys. That's my opinion. I don't know. Enjoy.
So this card has the exact same problem the others do have. If you want it, you really only want it in specific matchups. You really only want it specifically early rather than late. So you want 3 of. But you're not always going to play against those matchups, so you don't necessarily always want 3 of. So maybe you only want 2, or maybe you only want 1 because they're all unique. Except for,
That's
so
what I was going to say.
I'm only playing 1, and then sometimes I get it and it's really cool. Sometimes it does absolutely nothing. So why am I playing this one card in my deck when I could play a better card in my deck?
I think this goes in exactly one
deck.
deck.
They all have that exact same problem. I think Hollis said word for word exactly what I just said like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's a conundrum, man. I would love to play this card. If it said like the cards, it was either trash or play cost, whichever is higher. That would be neat, because then I can go trash like a game changer and get 6 counters and get 2 cards. That would be really cool.
Oh, you could run it out of Ed Kim.
Maybe I'm playing Ed Kim and I go smack hedge fund out of your hand. Oh, that would be neat. But then this card would be good, and it's not supposed to be good. I think this is a card that's like let's round out the pack. Let's give Shapers one last thing.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm thinking this is.
Very quickly, my 2 cents is that I feel that if this was looking better on the influence, it's probably something that would have seen more play as a splash out of faction. Shaper does not need Shaper doesn't need this weird draw mechanic. There's other ways to draw cards in Shaper. Don't worry about this card. You took the words out of my mouth with maybe a cool Ed Kim kind of synergy. Being able to draw up outside of the green faction is a lot more weirder and niche, and if you're having this in certain decks, it would complement it, but at that point, no, just don't worry about this guy.
I'm just going to point out the one deck that I think this fits in, and then we can move on. But just for the record, I think this does fit in a Haley Aesop's Pawn Shop Technical Writer deck. It's a cheap, installable thing that you can just pawn shop away if it's not wrong. But even then, I think it's, 48th, 49th, 50th card.
What's next on our list?
There you go. Just trying. Speaking of cheap to install cards that you can Aesop away if you want, it's Ika. It's a 0-cost 1MU killer icebreaker. Starts at strength 2 and it's 2 influence. And it's 2 credits to pump 3 strength. And it's 1 credit to break up to 2 subroutines on Host Sentry. Host Sentry. Gosh, okay. How does that work? Well, you can pay 2 credits to host it on a piece of ice. Whoa. Okay, so you install, you pay 2, you move it to the ice you want to break, and then if you get to another sentry, you then got to pay another 2. But when it's on a sentry, it's super efficient, right? 2 for +3 strength, and then breaking 2 subs for 1. That seems pretty good.
Is this Knight?
Whoa. It seems pretty close.
So, spoiler alert, Knight is my favorite card to ever exist in Netrunner. So, super, super excited about this. And I was thinking that this might work. Check the FAQ just now. When you install it, you host it onto Flameout. You can use the Flameout credits on it to host it onto your ice, and then it doesn't get trashed because it's no longer hosted on Flameout.
Nice.
You can automatically get it. You can just have it sitting and get it for free onto a sentry.
That's fun.
This is so for a long time, Shapers played a lady, H3 Cerberus, and an Inti. They played 1 of each. Okay, I got my Inti to deal with all of the vanillas and the ice walls of the world, and on a pinch I can break a wall static. But anything over that, nah, get rid of it. I'll use lady on that. It was a thing they did to try to preserve lady counters to make them last longer. You just played an inty the way you can beat all the small stuff without draining your main battery, which is a really smart idea. So now this card can pair up with nanotech. So we use our nanotech to break all of our small stuff. If we get a big sentry, and they're gonna maybe layer it at a certain way where our nanotech's not gonna be that efficient, like maybe it's a Nazi or it's a surveyor, a really, really big surveyor, we can potentially have to pump our nanotech a lot, and it's really expensive to pump. Now we can just host our Ica on that card, and we use Ica. We use that to break it instead. So it's a good pair up. Play one nanotech, then one just in case I'll play an Ica in case I have an archer or something like that. This breaks archer for 6 after you host it, which is ridiculous. Yeah, I really dig this card.
I like it as well. I think it's a really cool concept. I think it's really interesting. It combines a bunch of mechanics that we have seen in the past, and it does it kind of unique. I think one, I don't know how tricky it would be, but just for clarification, for 2 credits, you can host it on a piece of ice. I know you guys talked about, obviously you have to host it on a sentry to break the sentry stuff, but it doesn't necessarily have to sit and reside on a sentry. But
that's true.
I really, really love the Kessia mechanics. I was a big fan of that. Probably my favorite set of very thematic breakers, and mechanically how those things worked were just so awesome. So playing with Kessia back in the day, obviously everyone's played Parasite and stuff like that. I'm not worried about some of the thoughts that the Corp could essentially take this out of the game. Install over top, install a new piece of ice, and being able to trash the ice this is hosted on, and then that cycles out. You're playing Shaper, so recursion is there. Now you're going to get the bump with clone ships, so this is going to be probably super ridiculous again, now that testing will start with that. And if they're doing that anyway, you're paying 0 to put it into play, so let them start trashing their own ice. So overwrite whatever you want.
Well, I love the point that you made, or you sort of hinted at this earlier, that you could host it on non-sentries. I think that's brilliant, and I didn't even think of it. So you could be in a situation, right, where you're using this to break news hounds, for example, which maybe the Corp has a decent amount of money, and so you're worried, like, okay, they're going to trash their news hound because they only spent 2 credits to install it, and then I lose my Ica. So why not, whenever you're not using it, host it on a res toll booth or something expensive? And so then they have to really think, like, do I want to trash my own resed toll booth to get rid of this program? And that's actually a really skillful decision to decide, where am I going to leave my breaker? Because
it's only costing you the credits right now, when before it was costing you clicks and things like that with Kessia to move it, right? So you're only limited by your own credit pool about where you can house this thing at the end of your turn.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think this is pretty effective, and it's going to see some solid play in Shaper. Killers have always been something that they've struggled with, and this is a really cool solution.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think that what you're looking for here is basically because of tutorage and recursion. It's probably not going to be your main, but like Parasite was, slot a couple of these in, and they should be doing good work for you. I think it's going to be very versatile.
Well,
Yep.
Hold on. Let me check. Let me check something out real quick.
Hold on.
Hollis, how are you gonna argue with these numbers?
Oh no,
Take
no,
a look at
the
this value.
the numbers are great.
He'll find it.
I just want to check. I want to check on a quick little a little something. You know what I mean?
All right.
So
Hollis has to look up what all the bad cards do so we can understand how they work.
Now, if you put this on a Lycan, would the corp trash their own Lycan?
really,
Alec,
Really?
Alec, no.
Oh,
you
no.
advance the Lycan by one, so it's a code
Oh, then they can't break it.
gate. Then they can't
Ah.
break it. Proving Lycan's good yet
So countered. Oh
Lycan's
my
dumb.
god.
like dumb. But
Gonna res-
no. So
stick
here's the thing,
stick
though.
this on archers or something.
hasn't there been a change to the most wanted list recently?
Yeah.
Where now we have those clone ships more readily available, right?
again.
This is true.
So someone in the chat is asking if you can use Flame Out to boost the strength of Ika and then move it off during an encounter window. I believe then yes, you can do that. You can boost its strength, then move it to a sentry if it's hosted on a Flame Out, and then immediately break. I'm pretty sure you can. But I've been known to be wrong about every rule.
That's interesting. Yes, I imagine that would work because there's nothing about requiring you to be interacting with the ice. Yeah, I think it works.
Well, I was gonna say, like regarding Ika, I'm gonna say Ika. The potential for like actual sentries to be trashed is kind of neat. Also, if you recall, there's one card from the most wanted list that's now gone, right? It's Surveyor. But what's now back, even though it's a code game, what's back is basically Fairchild 3.0, which is even Glaciery. I like having this breaker in the deck for one reason in particular, and that is the potential, because it is so efficient, for the Corp to trash their sentries. And because Clone Ship is now going to be more readily available, this card can keep coming back. So you can target a particular, you can target sentries to an extent and say, all right, you are not taxing me how you would like. Are you going to trash? You're going to just let me break efficiently. Up to you. You're going to pay a lot of money for me to break efficiently. Oh, did you trash that? Man, that's great. You res another one? Well, here, it's back. Look at that. Hide your kids, hide your wives, because no sentry is going to be making it out here. Like, it's basically that's basically what it seems like is a potential to happen. And like you said, because it's very much like I'm just laughing, Kaisa. Or is it, I don't know, Kaisa? I don't know, dude.
I say Kaisa, but
Kaisa?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I say chess piece.
But because it is so, it does, very much remind me of Knight like this. If you recall, when people were playing Knight, that was something that happened. Now, granted, Knight could break anything, but what you often saw was that people would, like, you would Knight, and the corp would just be like, oh, okay, we're just gonna delete that ice because you break it really efficiently, and I'll keep it moving. And I just really think that's the scenario we're into. Plus, it's 0. It's 0 to put in play. When you mid-run clone ship, throw this in. I'm in the middle of the run. We're paying the 2. It's on. What are you like? I mean, it just seems so sick to me.
Yeah.
It just seems so sick to have this.
There's
in
also the synergy with having Egret hosted on something and then moving Ika onto it.
Dude.
Wow. Yeah.
Because here's the thing, right? You're already, if you're running this card, incentivized to have a critical mass of effects like Clone Ship and Reclaim and Test Run and Scavenge. And guess what works with all those? Well, Egret. I think you're totally right. You just be throwing stuff on their best pieces of ice like, hey, I've completely negated your Fairchild 3. You want to deal with that? Good luck. I think that's pretty sick.
All right, let's flip.
Cool. Well, speaking of hosting on ice and presenting corps with interesting decisions, This is my pick for the Shaper card of the pack.
Whoa!
It's
What?
Cubon.
This whole thing's gonna fall on me because I'm almost fell out of my
So
chair with that.
shocked. All right, well, check this out. This is a zero-cost 1MU fish program. I don't know what's going on in this art. And it says, install only on a piece of ice. So you immediately post it on ice, right? And then it's got this little line of text. It just says, gain 2 credits whenever you pass host ice.
Are you serious? This is your card of the pack, or is that shock value? Are you Howard? Are you Howard Sterning me right now?
Are you serious? I mean, check this out. It's 1 influence, right?
Yeah.
So many decks have ways, like, the point of the game as a runner is to get through ice efficiently, right? And if you have bad publicity, shout out to bad publicity. If you have security nexus, if you have stealth credits, right? You are essentially converting those into real money using this card. And it's 1 influence. And you've targeted a good piece of corp ice, a reasonable piece of corp ice, and you say, I'm just going to farm this piece of ice for the rest of the game for free money every time I make a run here, as many times as I do on a turn. What are you going to do about it? And to me, that's a really powerful effect. And I think you can really abuse this. I've seen it in action, and yeah, I think if you have any means of making your runs cheaper, which a lot of runners do, you get a lot of value out of this card.
So, real life situation, right? You're playing, and let's just say you're playing an Anarch, and there's an Enigma. So you run, and you have your Black Orchestra, and you pay 3 to break an Enigma. As a corp, how you feel?
Good.
Pretty good.
That's a good deal.
Like, yeah, cool. He's paying 3 every time, and I paid 3 once. So yeah, it's like every single time I'm getting a good thing out of that. Mm-hmm. Now as the runner, you say, okay, I'm gonna host a Cubit on that. Now I net 1 to break that Enigma. How do you feel now?
I want to get rid of that Enigma.
Yeah, you want to get rid of that Enigma, right? So now it's only costing him 1. So yeah, now let me get rid of this Enigma. Now I got to install and res another piece of ice. The runner has won that exchange. Now, does that make it an amazingly great card? No. It makes it a very useful and it makes it a very useful card. It's only 1 influence. You can throw it in anything. Throw it on a vanilla. Now you net 1 when you break it. You know, maybe you throw it on to that Fairchild 3. You break with your Gordian Blade. It costs you what, 6 to break it? Now it only costs 4. It's just little tiny increments of getting your money back. Maybe you host it on something and you use it's whenever you pass host ice. Maybe you film something and you
snap
a Cubit on it too. Like, I get past this. Now I just walk past this ice. And it's not unique, so you can have 3 of them on something. Maybe you just have 2 sitting on a toll booth. Like, yeah, I'm going to pay 3 at the beginning, I'm going to get 4 at the back end.
Oh, or put them on an architect, and then they can't trash it. You just put 3 of them, and then you farm the architect.
This is something that would benefit the cards we talked about earlier. This is something that would benefit Mind's Eye if you're gonna play to this sort of thing where you need to make multiple runs. This will help pay you back for doing those runs. And it costs 0. I think this is a great 1 or 2 of card just to round out your deck. Like, cool, if I get a Cuban and I can get a couple extra dollars for doing some runs, sweet. If I never draw them, it's no big deal. It's that kind of card that any deck welcomes it, no deck doesn't want it, kind of guy.
Yeah. I think for me, the only reason I say that, because or what I said is I think my card of the pack was Ika. I think that what that's doing is really cool, especially with the like I said, the boost with clone chip coming off the list. I think it's very, very shapery, very awesome. There's going to be some cool stuff going on here. Not to say this is a bad card, but there's a couple things that jostle around with me on this one. Is I feel that influence is really in a good spot. The cost is really good, and if you're setting things up here and doing those interactions that what David said, then basically, you know, what you kind of have is a little junior parasite, because the corp isn't getting the value out of their ice anymore, so they're going to start to question it. But unless this is in actually harm's way, the one thing I don't like about it is the memory. I feel that when I'm playing Shaper, my tool belt is already being stretched and maxed, and I can't afford to, you know, it's one of those cards, exactly like you said before, Alec, you know, this is one of the ones that it might be that, you know, 47, 48, or 49. I forget the actual quote that you said, like card in a deck. I don't think this is something that's going to most of the time build towards a win condition. I think it's cool and it can definitely help you in certain moments. But this is one of those things that when you have the deck spread out and you have too many cards, this is probably one that I'm like, ooh, I don't really want to, but I don't think I can make this in the cut. And it's basically just because of that, like memory management and stuff. I think it's a really cool effect. I'm happy to see this card printed. Just, I guess I'm not as over the moon, shall we say, as you are with it. And I like the fact too that it works on. It doesn't say install on a resed piece of ice. Throw that down on a face down one, and when you're passing over that stuff, just get some money. I do love the fact that it's not saying when the run completes. I mean, if so you needed to, or if you're in a bad situation, as soon as you pass it, you get your coinage, and you can jack out if needed be. So.
Are you suggesting a return of the au revoir econ package? Because man, I am all about that life.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
I just think that it's really well put together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's interesting now that clone chip is back in the conversation. This is a really enticing clone chip target as well if you need that boost of econ and the situation is right. I think what's nice about this and Ika is that they're very skillful cards, and which ice you choose is gonna be heavily dictated by your read on the corp's priorities and their willingness to deal with it. So I think it'll reward players who really pay attention to those parts of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's neat.
Anyone else? Hollis, did you get your say? Or are you good?
Value. That's like I say, value. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Vader time.
Give it to me.
All
There
right.
you go.
Cool. So before we go, let's see if trends will be broken. We're about to enter the last card of the Shaper.
Here we go.
We know.
They've saved
We
the
know.
best for last.
We know that Anarch ended on a disappointment. We know that Criminal ended on a disappointment. Let's see if the trend can be broken.
Oh my gosh, FFG, will you pull it off? It's Psych Mike.
Or drop the mic. Who is this?
It's a one-cost, unique resource connection. And Psych Mike says the first time a successful run on R&D ends each turn, you may gain 1 credit for each card you accessed from R&D for 4 influence.
Card of the pack.
I don't even know if you're joking.
I'm not. So I was sitting on.
Wait. You're saying card of the pack?
Oh, sorry. Card of the faction. Yeah, this is not the card of the faction.
Okay.
This is card of the faction. This is the best Shaper card. This is the best card we're going to talk about tonight.
Because it's a connection.
It's great because Psych Mike gives you 1 credit to freely spend on Nisei runs. So let's say you're playing Nisei and you're like, well, the corp's going to spend 1. You can go ahead and spend 1. Because if you access 2, you're going to make your money back if you have Psych Mike on the board. It gives you room. It gives you flex room to pay a little more into the side game. It builds into one of my favorite econ packages, which we talked about multiple times. Cards in this pack do. The RNG key and Find the Truth package. Psych Mike says, hey, whenever you want to do your Find the Truth RNG key thing on R&D, get an extra $1. Go for it. If you want to do a deep dig, let's say you're like, okay, well, I really just want to make sure I get as much access as I can here, but I'm going to lose a lot of money. You do a Maker's Eye. At the end of the run, Psych Mike says, hey, good job. Here's $3. So you get your money back that you're investing to do a deep dig run, which is really cool. This is pushing us to try and go back to the Maker's Eye runs, to go to the deep data mining runs. Deep data mining, you're getting $5 back with Psych Mike after you're done, which is crazy. If you have a turning wheel built up, you're like, all right, here's my shot. I'm gonna spend all my money and do this turning wheel. I'm gonna access 8 cards. If I don't win, then I've spent all my money and I'm done. Psych Mike gives you your money back.
I think to piggyback off some of the stuff that you said, and then I will be able to bow out on this one. I'm meh on this card because I'm not the combo god that you are there, Dave. To me, this card gives me anxiety because I'll be holding my cards in hand that are multi-access ones. And I'll be like, oh, I can't use it yet. Where's my Psych Mike so I can get value out of it? I put it in here for a reason.
Yeah. She's not a 3-of. You don't play 3 Psych Mikes.
No.
This is something you play, and if you don't need her. You don't need Psych Mike early. You play like 2, and whenever you draw it, you put it down, and you're good to go. If you make 1 run on R&D, you get the cost back to install it.
I feel I just feel that it's lack. I feel it's just okay because it's relying I feel like it's relying on too much combos in the order that those cards are going to come in around. So I'm not sure that I can fully put the Jameson gold star here. I just when we talk about if a card is that good, then and I'm only running 1 of it, or it's hard for me to wrap my head around that, because I would want to see that a lot sooner if it was making that impact.
I think I'm in a similar boat to you. I'm still not sure about this one. I don't know if the credit gain from it is that impressive. Unless you're running consistent multi-access, so maybe in addition to Nisei you're running Nyasha or Exer or Turning Wheel, then you can get it more reliably. But yeah, I think this is kind of a feels bad card if you draw it and the corp is really sealed off your way to R&D. And getting those credits, I don't know. I'm not totally convinced that the return on investment is worth it compared to other options for these sort of slots.
Yeah, I mean, to do the math, it's like I don't think you could compare it and sit there where you're saying, well, since it costs 1, and if I make a run, I'm getting that 1 back right away. I don't think you can do the math like that. I think that you start to have to think of the cost of a deck slot, and I don't know what the cost of a deck slot is.
Right. And I'm not totally convinced by the argument that it's fine if you draw this late either, because the late game feels like that's when the corp is going to be as secure as possible, right? They've had the most time to set up R&D. So unless you're in something like a smoke deck, where I could actually see this card being pretty reasonable, where those runs, you're converting stealth credits into real credits. Yeah, it just seems like a lot of effort to get in and get a couple extra credits back. And you got to commit to the entire run. Yeah, I don't know.
We're just not.
My value alarm is not.
We're just not the combo king, man.
I guess you're right. I guess you're right. Dang.
Hollis, this will be the last time that you have anything to say about a new Shaper card. Use your time wisely and spread the wisdom. Setting up for disappointment here. Go serving one, Hollis.
I think it's fine. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
The curtains come down. End of episode.
I like what David said about the card. I think that.
Oh, we're split. It's a dead tie on the last Shaper, 2-2. Wow.
Well, I feel like Maker's Eye. By number one, if you just said Maker's Eye, right, and that's in a lot of Shaper decks that would be a staple, right? If you say Maker's Eye, I feel like that's appropriate. I feel like having cards like Maker's Eye and plus some of the cards we've seen that allow you to access an additional card means that you get that additional value. I mean, and not just because of Akiko Nisei, right? But because of cards like Mind's Eye as a potential to give us additional card access. Is basically in every scenario where we have even one more card access, we're attempting to add to that value from the in credits from the cards we're accessing. Then you start looking at in the largest piece of that pie, or the largest benefit, where it's something like deep data mining, where while combo-y provides you with a hefty amount of credits, when you do make that giant run, it feels like a combo of all these things where maybe sort of early-ish you're trying your best to get in the Maker's Eyes as quickly as possible. To get those early accesses, you basically gain those credits back almost immediately from just the cost to even play the card even, right? And then when you are doing the deep data mining run, granted I normally don't see both in all decks, usually one or the other. You run a card like deep data mining where it's like, okay, now I'm looking at 5. I'm looking at 5 cards. Now that I'm making that run, I'm getting that 5 credits or 6 credits, like something massive, right? I think there's value there because in the same way how the corp is going to try to shore up and lock up R&D, this card allows you to sort of more quickly make up the difference when you do go for that really big run. So there's a scenario where you can go for the really big run with a card like deep data mining, and yeah, you're spending a lot of money or a lot of credits, but you're gaining the 5 credits back. So it's helping you it helps you recoup that cost to make that run at a later time again, which I think is what you ultimately want to do, right? If they're going to keep icing up R&D, you want to make sure you get some of that value back when you do it. So I don't know. Also, I think I also see a here with the top hat combo, right? Because is it during a run, or is it whenever you just access?
It's during a run.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So I feel like, excuse me, I'm coughing. I feel like scenarios where you can even just go for like the combo deck we mentioned earlier, or not I mentioned, David mentioned earlier, where you go for the quality run. I think there's still a value there, kind of, because you get to go for the one card you know exactly where the agenda is, so you're going to make only a few quality runs. Then you get the Akiko Nisei ability to access an additional card, or other cards let you access additional cards. I don't know. I do see a value here. I agree also with Alec. I don't know if that value's great, but I see the potential for it to be good. Huh. And I feel like it's something you can play around and make valuable or more valuable.
Right.
So
Hollis is pulling what we call the desperado move right now.
Yeah.
Riding them fences.
Well, here's what Hollis I think you're getting at, which I think is a really good way to look at this. Is you're saying like Yeah, it could give you a lot of value on quality runs, but it also gives you incremental value over the course of the game. So I actually wonder, where does this card sit in terms of your deck's game plan? Is this the kind of card that you want to see often and early to get many single small accesses repeatedly over the course of the game, and that's how you add up value? Or do you wait around, have this not give you any credits for several turns, and then you power out a deep data mining or something? And I don't know if it's completely worth it in either situation, right? Which of those two decks does this go in, if either one? Because I don't know if you can have a runner deck that does both those things all the time. And if so, does this card make the cut?
I also believe that, man, we're gonna go back in time. But if you look at old school denial decks, which basically were any decks with account siphon, right? If you look at account siphon decks, back when we had account siphon Desperado, so I know we're going back in time, guys, but the unique scenarios that siphoning credits allowed or afforded you was that you got to do cool stuff. Like, it wasn't just that siphoning credits from HQ gave you additional pressure on R&D and on remote servers. It was if anything, in some cases that was the game plan, is that you are siphoning or hurting the corp economy just so they have to pick one location to divide now their protective resources. So it kind of sucks. This is leading me to say it kind of sucks, and I get why, but it kind of sucks as cards for influence, because I think that, especially if you have denial options, this card gets stronger, because now you're doing exactly what I'm talking about. If you can find a way to use denial and this card together, then you end up in those scenarios where, okay, I'm hitting you in HQ or archives in the case of the NR card I just told you was not very good.
The router?
Yeah, the router. Where basically you're trying to reduce corp credits. You get in this weird unique window where you go, okay, so I'm reducing your credits per turn, on each individual turn. So as a result, you have to make a very hard decision. Are you going to protect R&D? You do that, I'm going to force you to lose credits from archives from HQ. And if you protect any of those, well, now your R&D's open, and because I'm hitting that for free, I'm gaining a credit each time I hit R&D, even if it's just a run access run. So I think my problem is I think you hit it on the head, Alec. I like it and I see a value. I don't know the deck that works with this. Right. And the deck I want to work with it, I don't think the tools are all there. Not easily. Not in a way that I think a deck has been made yet. I don't know. Can we just go back in time and put Siphon back in the game? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, they did that.
It's like, no.
Except it's not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not flexible enough for my taste. Like, if you could pick a server, or if this worked on any central server or whatever, then we're talking. But the fact that it's R&D and they're already sitting across from a green identity, and they know your game plan is R&D, right? The odds are just so stacked against you to get maximum possible value out of this stuff.
Man, kind of my conclusion of why this is my favorite Shaper card in the deck, in the pack, isn't because I think it's an amazingly great card. I think it's really cool that you get the money back for the run. It's kind of speaks to the power level of the green cards in the deck, in the pack. If this is my favorite one, then,
that is a great point. I
really
think
have
the overall level is
if you're doing an out of 10 scale, this is a 5 or 6, and it's what I think is the best one.
Well, let us know in the comments below, if you made it this far in the episode, what you feel is the best Shaper. And always, you have many of times, if you disagree with anything we've said, flame it down below in there as well. We love the discussion. I like reading what people have to say, if it contradicts some of my stuff. Guys, so I think that concludes it. That should be right there. Thanks again for hanging out with us for this length of time as we walk through another concluding chapter in the Netrunner saga. closing the book on green. Next week we'll dabble into we'll do a treat. We're going to do 3 factions in one episode.
Whoa. Mind blown.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Working on the script
Amazing.
now.
How could that be? How could that be? Secrets won't be revealed here. You'll have to tune in next week. Thank you very much, guys. I'm out of here. Hollis is gone. Alec is gone. David's gone. But we will be back. If you like this, and you've, like I said, if you made it this far, throw that thumbs up. It's kind of cool to see.
We appreciate it.
We do.
We do.
We're out, people. Good night, Neverland.
Later, guys.
Have a good night.